When the Log Homes Council first started in late 70s,
Yes.
the reason that the group got together was because they were having problems with grading, energy codes, and building officials in general. But fire was another big issue, and those problems stayed on for a long time. It took a long time to get past them. And I would say right now, thanks to ICC 400, we're past all but the energy codes.
Well, thank you, Rob. We have with us today is Rob Pickett. And Rob, I have known for many, many years. Rob is an engineer who has done a tremendous amount of work for the Log Home Council and helped the log home industry throughout the years. Thank you for joining us, Rob.
Thank you. It was a pleasure getting the invite.
I guess we should explain to people a little bit. The Log Home Council is an association of log home manufacturers, and we are a council of the part of the National Association of Home Builders. We're is Log and Timber Frame Council. It's had different names and things throughout the years, but the council has been very, very critically important in everything from log grading and building codes and information testing that's been done throughout the years, things that have made the log home industry able to continue and to survive and thrive. Passing all the technical requirements that are needed to obtain building permits and to meet the code requirements. What were some of and you as an engineer have been involved in all that technical, those technical components, most of which is way over my head. But I get the gist of what we're doing. Exactly how we do it all the time is definitely not my forte. But what are what are the things that you worked on over the years? And I know you have some things you could be very, very proud of.
Well, thanks. So let me just clarify. I never went to get my license as an engineer or architect. So it's all industry experience. And what I would do when I was at log home companies, I was with 5 different log home companies. I would be involved with rewriting construction manuals and updating details and trying to fix code issues. And I would be hiring architects and engineers as needed, but mostly engineers to sign off on plans that we designed. And I got tired of doing that, so I started writing Excel spreadsheets. Well, at that time, it was Lotus 123. And creating spreadsheets that the designers could use. And I would have engineers check that and make sure that all the equations were right and that sort of thing. And that's kind of how I grew into what I started doing. Really, structures was the beginning of it. Everybody's got to deal with structures, getting the ridge beams right, and telling people they can't pull that post out of the basement just because they want free room, because it'll be a problem.
Might fall down, yeah.
I got the opportunity to work on the grading manual, creating a training program, and went out to 3 different sites to teach people how to grade. I had a certified grader with me. He was a lumber grader, but he also knew timber and stuff, and we got along pretty well. And we came back after doing 3 training seminars, and I had managed to drop a log on my toe, and I had steel-tip boots on, and it still hurt. So I was hobbling around, and we got a call saying, our guys came back from the seminar, and none of our logs will pass. So they obviously weren't listening. Bottom line there is these guys all had their own in-house rules, and the quality that they wanted the logs to look like was better than, the structural side of it. We got over that. And but I was still working. I left Stephen Winter to take a different position as a writer, technical writer, and uh, so I was still interested in the grading program, and so that's why I went to Denver. Um, Barbara Martin set me up to do some work with the committee, and she got mad at me because we had a committee meeting in a bar.
Sounds about right.
Probably got more done.
She said, "Never again," because nobody took notes.
So backing up even further, how did you start? What brought you into the business in the first place, or into the industry, I mean?
Well, I'll go back to a joke I pulled on Dave Reed at one point when he was retiring. And I pulled out a bunch of Lincoln logs. And I said, "Dave, this is a gable end." And it was a red plastic, log gable end from a Lincoln log set. I don't know. I just always liked them. My first log home company was Colorado Log Homes in Inglewood, Colorado. And was in design and estimating and purchasing and did all sorts of things, wore several hats at Colorado Log Homes. And I don't know, I remember one day going out in the shop and just smelling the wood, and never left.
Right. It'll do that, won't it?
Yeah, it will.
Sure will.
Should explain to people a little bit about log grading, what that means. People are used to, if they go to the lumber yard and they buy a 2x4, it's got a stamped grade on it. And that was one of the first things that, since logs are structural, that's one of the first issues that we had with building inspectors, was that we didn't have any stamp on our logs showing they were graded. And so that's why and nobody had developed those standards. So that was one of the things that we had to do, was develop the grading standards. And now it's actually in all of the codes that logs for log homes are supposed to be graded. A lot of building inspectors don't realize that. And a lot of them do not ask for the documentation to prove it. But it actually is a requirement that all the logs be graded. And they can be graded in two ways. Each log can be stamped if you want to go to that trouble, which is not the prettiest thing. And so, even if you put it on the end of it, you're going to see some of them. Or you have paperwork that states that they're graded, which is the program we follow. We provide paperwork saying that the logs are graded. That could have shut down our industry immediately.
Yeah. Well, when the Log Homes Council first started in late 70s.
Yes.
The reason that the group got together was because they were having problems with grading, energy codes, and building officials in general. But fire was another big issue, and those problems stayed on for a long time. It took a long time to get past them. And I would say right now, thanks to ICC 400, we're past all but the energy codes.
Yeah, that is something people don't realize, is that they think the government provides all this testing, and it doesn't. The members of the Log Home Council have had to pay for having all this testing done, and it is it's not cheap, and we're a group of not huge companies. We're small companies, and so it has been a big investment by the members of the Log Home Council to pay for all of this.
Yeah, huge.
Go through the steps of what you're just talking about. Let's talk about some of the different things what we've done. And
well, first of all, I've got to say that the Log Homes Council has been the best part of my working career. The people, the projects we've been on, the cooperation between all members. It's really been phenomenal, and I can't say enough good stuff about the council. When I joined Real Log Homes, they allowed me to participate in a more official capacity. And so I became the log grading committee chairman. Was there, I think, 2 years, and realized that the technical committee had kind of faded. Dave Reed had retired, and a couple other guys that were kind of stalwarts and technical just weren't doing it anymore. And so we started the technical committee and started writing white papers. So one of the things I learned early on is that if you can make an argument that your company is the best and it does this and this and this, but the most convincing thing is when you have some third party tell you the same thing. And so that was the idea, was we would start writing white papers that were a consensus among all the members, but it was kind of written outside of the council, if you will. And that was a great process. Doug Parsons and I teamed up on a lot of them. Paul Peebles, we had just lots of different contributors that were great to work with. We addressed grading, we addressed fire, we addressed settling, we addressed energy. We continue to address energy.
That's because they keep moving the bar.
Yeah.
I know that everybody wants a number, and it's so difficult because logs change. You know, if it's dry outside but it's humid inside, there's a dew point in the log and it moves, and it's not always going to perform the same way.
Where's the ICC 400? Explain to people what that is and how that came about and how people should use it.
I forget who was the executive director, and he suggested that we help write a standard for VA and FHA inspectors to review log home projects. And so the technical committee took that on and developed a format. They pretty much used that format right up till ICC 400 was developed. And in fact, that format was the beginning draft of ICC 400. So it addressed all these technical issues. At that point, ICC hadn't come together as one organization. They were still Council of American Building Officials and International Council of Building Officials, ICBO, BOCA, Southern Building Code, and it was kind of a mess. Each one of the codes individually worked fine in their region, but everybody was starting to work more on a nationwide format. And so the government decided that ICC needed to be formed. All the codes came together, and it opened the door for ICC 400 because it's a standard. It's not a code. It has the impact of a code because it's written in, it's acknowledged by the IRC, International Residential Code. It's recognized by the IBC, International Building Code. Urban Wildlife Interface Code, I believe, recognizes it, and the Energy Code. And because it's recognized, it is code. So, you know, if you hand out a book to a building official and say, this is the code for log homes, you're not wrong.
So it's like an addendum or addition to the building code.
Yeah, just like the accessibility standards are. You know, I mean, they're widely used. The process really was tough, and it wasn't working real well because we couldn't define what a log was. And one of the guys picked up this picture of a log toy cabin, and it was made out of like 2x6s that had been planed into siding and stacked and made to look like a log cabin. And he goes, "This is not a log home." And we went, "Yeah, so what's your point?" But the point was that he didn't like the spindly aspects of some log packages that were out there. Which there were a couple of companies out west that had some really thin logs. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah, there were. Mm-hmm. And a couple in New England.
Yeah, and that still is one of our biggest problems as the council, is recognizing that those nominal 6-inch logs, nominal because they're planed out of a 6x6 or a 6x8, really are not going to meet the energy code. It's tough to tell people that.
It's very hard to get them to meet the code. So we got the ICC 400, which was a big step.
How long was that process? When you started it, you said 03, you said you guys met for the first time? When was it finally completed and first adopted?
2007.
So 4 years.
Yeah.
And none of these things happen overnight.
Yeah. Well, I've read it. I've read some of it anyway, and yeah.
I remember one of the things that we did is we compiled, which one of the requirements of Log Home Council is that you have to have a construction manual. and we compiled all everybody sent in a copy of their construction manual so that we could get some consensus of showing different how the houses are put together.
That actually, from a standard standpoint, that made us void out so many things. So because whose foam tape is better than the other and whose caulk is better than the other, and ICC does not like identifying quality and quantity or anything like that in terms of materials. They want the materials to speak for themselves. Like in terms of sealants, it just came down to you shall apply sealants and to make sure the house doesn't leak.
So what going on now, you and I are on the board of the International Mass Timber Alliance together. I was not involved in that when it was formed. Can you give everybody an overview of IMTA and what our group is trying to do?
This is going to sound a little silly, but we started back in Kansas City. There was an ICC hearing, and all we were trying to do is get a little exemption in the building envelope performance section of the Energy Code that said, log homes that are designed in accordance with ICC 400 shall meet the code. And we didn't think that it was going to be objected to, but we had improved the energy section of ICC 400 as well. But we pushed for that, and we got some really good support. Dean was on that group that went to the meetings and spoke, and we were successful. And a couple of people tried to stand up, and other people outside our council, outside of the log industry, actually stood up and put them back in their place and said, "Forget it, just do this." So we felt pretty good about ourselves, and thought, okay, well, we've got it kind of licked. But then we realized that we only finished part of the project. That was like the major battle. The council sent me to a ResNet conference, and the idea was I was going to do a presentation about Log Homes Council, about log home industry, and about ICC 400, and try to get a gist of the reaction and where we might go with ResNet. And ResNet is an organization that develops its own set of energy performance requirements based on what you actually go out and see in the field. Take blower door tests, check insulation levels. They go far beyond what a building official would do in terms of energy. And so I gave my presentation, and afterwards, that's when I met Mikhail Salanvara, and he was working at Oak Ridge National Labs. And he came back to me after that and said, "I have an idea. Let's prove that mass wood homes will perform better in cooling conditions. We've always focused on heating, but we never focused on the fact that they're much better cooling houses, cooling an environment." And so that's what he did, and that's where Oak Ridge and IMTA came together. At that time, we were the Log Building Leadership Alliance, and we tried to get the Canadians to join in, and we had a scientist from Germany participating, and he was pushing, international. So we renamed ourselves International Mass Timber Alliance. We thought that the CLT industry would be right in there with us. They were not interested.
Okay, there's a lot of acronyms.
A lot of acronyms, I'm sorry. Cross-laminated timbers.
For those that don't know, it is a lot of acronyms to keep up with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've built identical cubes, like little tiny houses at Oak Ridge National Labs in Knoxville, Tennessee, and then 2 more in Texas and 2 more in Colorado. And those are being monitored right now, and they are to test the energy efficiency of those in comparison. And this is being funded by the IMTA has had donations from the Log Home Council, has put in a substantial amount of money. There's been a lot of log home manufacturers that put in substantial amount of money. There's been some other log home organizations have put in money. Now we have to assimilate all of this documentation and improve into something that we can then put into a report that hopefully is going to assist us as we continue to fight this energy battle that we still fight for log homes, even after all these years.
So the interesting part of the Oak Ridge project is, in a scientific sense, you come up with a hypothesis. Okay, log homes perform better in hot climates. You stay cool inside without additional energy. All right, so how do you prove that? So you create a model on the computer, which already exists. DOE has been writing energy programs for freaking 50 years. They've finally advanced. They haven't paid any attention to the European standards, which are, like 10 years ahead of us, but that's all right. But Mikhail knows quite a bit about these modeling programs. And so we designed a test first that was going to just see if what we're saying has any credibility. So we built 4 panels. One was a 2x4 construction with R13. One was 2x6 with R19. A solid wood panel that was 4 inches and one that was 6 inches. And we tested that in this one chamber that would allow the temperature to be held on one side and varied on the other side. Oak Ridge has been doing this testing since the 30s. They are the national expert on building thermal envelopes and moisture concerns and things like that. So those 4 panels were put in this chamber. They were hit with powerful lights, so it would demonstrated like a solar gain, and it demonstrated the performance that we were looking for, but on a small scale. So the guys in Germany came up with this plan to use 3-meter cubes. So that's about 10 foot. And they set up, I think 5 or 6 of these cubes in Frankfurt, Germany, and monitored them, set up all the instruments to measure the moisture content, measure the humidity, measure all sorts of things. And they were finding really good results. And then I said to Timo, who was the engineer in charge, I said, what's the climate like in Frankfurt? Well, it turned out the climate was very similar to Maryland. And you might remember in the early 80s, the National Institute of Building Sciences did the tests in Maryland. And that's where we first got mass walls credited in the code. The problem was that nobody would give us credit for cold weather. They figured, okay, in a temperate zone where your temperatures are rising and falling, tremendously, and there's not a long stretch of cold, that sure, mass works really well, but they wouldn't give any credit for living in a cold climate. So we lived with that for a long time. But that was one of the things that Mikhail at Oak Ridge was trying to study. So he came out with this idea of 1-meter cubes. So we built 4 1-meter cubes that were identical to the two-dimensional panels that we built and tested. And then we tested those. And we got more information that was on the same par, proving our point. So we built the 3-meter cubes. And the funny part about all that studies, all those measurements and everything, is that Mikhail kind of came to the point where he figured that the program was wrong. The computer program we were used to model everything. So that's been one of the hangups was getting the final report from Oak Ridge on that project.
One of my favorite things about on Oak Ridge National Lab, which is an amazing place to go visit. If you can get in the door, you have to have approval and all this. But the DOE, Department of Energy, built a conference room there on their property, and they made it out of logs. It's a 6-inch, isn't it? 6-inch logs. I think it's a 6-inch log building, and it's like this is the crazy thing. If you want us to have to prove energy, but you go and build one yourself, so you must believe in it.
And the goal is not to prove that the timber is better than stick frame construction or 2x4, 2x6 wall, is to prove that it's at least equal.
Yeah. That's a really good point, Lacey, because the energy codes have stopped changing the building thermal envelope specs. It got to the point where the insulation manufacturers wanted an R60 roof, they wanted an R38 floor, and for the most of America, why? They're pumping up insulation in the foundation, they were pushing for better windows. Now you can hardly buy a window that meets the code. And, so they kept pushing and pushing and pushing, and up to the 2021 edition of the Energy Code, they pushed it to the limit. And I credit NAHB for fighting against the roof one in particular, because, as you're analyzing insulation levels against the climates, there's a certain point where the benefit climbs and climbs and climbs and then just slowly flattens out. And that's at about R49, which is why we're at R49 now. But they wanted R60, but that was just, more money gone for nothing. And so that effort has slowed down dramatically. And now you see things going into passive solar add-ons, and the biggest thing I think in the last issue was the fight over how should you require electric car plug-ins in your garage. That was a big
We
deal.
had a customer just within the last couple of weeks that his permit got rejected because we had not put electric car plug-ins and pre-wiring for solar in his plan. So we had to go back and add that.
So didn't you use the old standby? We don't supply it, so we're not drawing it?
They don't take that. If you don't have it on there, you can't ask the customer to go to some other engineer to have them add these things. It's just easier to just do it and take care of it and get the permit and build your house.
Yeah, very true. Yeah.
Well, we're going to have to wrap up here in a minute, but the one thing I wanted to give an opportunity for is on the IMTA website, which is imtamorlawrence.org. And anyway, if anybody wants to support furthering these energy studies that we do, if people would just give $25. It's amazing how fast those $25 donations can add up. And so many people out there believe in their homes. All the log home owners that are out there, they want other people to be able to buy a log home. And so it would be great if they could go and donate $25 to help further this cause. And because we're very tight with our pennies and make a dollar stretch, and we could really use that funding in order to help us fight this fight.
Yeah, and once we get through this particular fight, we may see more innovation come in the industry that will maybe look different in a log home, or something, make it easier to assemble, make it panelized. I don't know. There's lots of opportunities.
I'm such a firm believer in the environmental aspects of log home construction and solid timber construction and everything that, using real wood from an environmental standpoint is such a better choice for our environment. And leaving our planet in a better shape for my grandchildren and their children. So, I think that that's something that, again, that IMTA could help work. And IMTA also worked closely with the Log Home Council. We're both groups that are working to solve these issues and trying to fight the good fight.
Yeah, I think that we're going to be leaning on the Log Homes Council and NHB a lot more in the near future because of the people and the contacts that NHB already has, and we need those really bad.
Yeah, they're the leading voice in the housing industry, and even though we're a very small niche of the housing industry, we are part of the housing industry.
Sure are.
Yeah.
We sure are. Growing up around it, I've heard things, but not fully, by any means grasping what was going on. So it's been really interesting to learn more, to understand it. And I'm thankful that you guys have done all the work that you have done to get us at least where we're at now. I mean, we still have our fights, and that's fine, but at least we're still here.
She was little. She used to get mad at me for going to all those meetings, but now she's like, "Well, Mom, thanks for going."
Well, this is because we had too much fun at those meetings.
Yeah, that's true. We learned so much from each other, because nobody knew how to build our homes whenever we started in this industry, and we've all learned from each other. And obviously, the other log home manufacturers are not my competition. It's stick frame builders that are my competition. I don't get upset if somebody else chooses to buy from another log home company. I get upset if they decide to build a stick home. Well, thank you very much. Thank you for everything you've done for the Log Home Council and the log home industry, and you have been a huge asset for us.
Thank you. And you have been an equal contributor, Lynn. You've done a lot.
I tried, but I'm not the technical person that you are. So then those are the kinds of things that...
You're an awesome leader.
Well, thank you.
Well, it was great talking to you today. Thanks for all your information.
You're welcome.
And you have a great evening.
I'll give it a whirl.
All right.
All right.
Thanks.
See ya.
Thanks, Rob.